I'm Chuck Newman. I'm a captain for DemCast in Michigan, and I'm also a founder of Distill Social, which creates content, particularly Michigan-based content. Today's conversation is co-sponsored by DemCast and the Jewish Community Center of Ann Arbor. We have some protocols here that we like to follow. One, as you probably know by now, we are recording this session. We activated closed captioning, which again, you should see. All attendees will be muted, but use the chat feature to enter your questions. And to the extent that we have time, we will answer them. And this is important. The views expressed are mine and the other co-hosts and our guests. And finally, all previous conversations can be found at the Jewish Community Center website, which is jccannarbor.org. Noemi, maybe you can put that in chat. And Nick Newson, one of the founders of DemCast, is co-hosting with me. So we're going to start by mentioning how honored we are to have our guest, former Ukrainian ambassador to Austria, Alexander Sherba, and Eugene Kalnick, who some of you are familiar with because he's been our guest twice before, and he's with MacPaws in Ukraine. And he's been organizing the fight against Russian disinformation there. So I know that I speak for all of us on this session in that when I say that we grieve for Ukraine and we are inspired by your courage. So thank you again for being with us today. Alexander, where are you joining us from?
Kiev downtown. It has been almost a week, 2 weeks, a week that it's rather quiet here. The only explosions are when someone is demining the roads around Kiev.
I've heard that that's quite a challenge and that the mines are quite sophisticated. Are you able to accomplish that without injuring the people doing the demining?
Well, it's a dangerous time, unfortunately, but Ukrainians are courageous people and people who, as it turns out, are good at war, are good at conducting war, are good at defending themselves, including demining the mines that the Russian aggressors left so richly across the country.
And until recently, you were ambassador to Austria. How are you occupying your days now? What's a typical day for you?
My day?
Yes.
Quite frankly, ever since the war began, I discovered myself as an influencer. So I started tweeting, and I was tweeting nonstop for 2 weeks. Then I just looked and my Twitter account grew from 14,000 to 250,000, and people were really taking notice. So if I'm being honest, of course, I have a job and I'm trying to do it. I work as a consultant for one of the biggest Ukrainian consortiums and energy consortiums. But first of all, I'm trying to bring to explain truth and to bring truth about this war to the world.
There was a request that you put your Twitter handle, or what is your Twitter handle? And perhaps somebody could put it in chat for you.
It's Olex_Sherba.
Okay. So Nick or Lori, can you put that in chat? Thank you.
Lori just added it. Yeah.
All right. Of course she did. So what's the Russians' motivation for a disinformation campaign? Why have they been spending so much time and effort on this?
Well, how do you conduct a campaign, a war this barbaric without fooling your people? Because usually you cannot just say we are going to kill Ukrainians who disobey our empire. You have to have some story, some legend, and Putin is selling very successfully this legend to the Russians. And the legend is that Ukrainians are divided into two categories. One is the Nazis, the rabid Nazis who hate Russia, and the other category is average, simple Ukrainians who are longing to be liberated by Putin. And of course, this picture sells very well. Unfortunately, even after seeing from all possible outlets in the world that this picture is completely distorted and wrong, most Russians still choose to be oblivious about this war, just like Germans chose to be oblivious to where their Jewish neighbors were disappearing during the war. Sometimes this is how human psyche works, but
Uh-oh, we lost him. Oh, there we go.
of people, have you lost me?
Yeah, we lost you for a minute.
So Putin brought up a whole generation of people who are enthused about all things military and imposing their will on others. They think this is how things are in life, in real world. So they are enthused about this war. They 84% or 74% strongly support, 84% support more or less this war. 51% say this war makes them proud to be Russians.
And of course, the disinformation is not confined just to Russia itself. I was struck by something, it's a 20-second TikTok video. Two men wrestle inside what looks like a shop selling notebooks and iPhone cases. One of them appears to be drunk and he is shouting, "Glory to Ukraine," demanding the other man say it as well. Together, they stare across the room. The video was posted to Facebook on March 4th with a caption reads, "How Ukrainian immigrants are behaving in Moldova." It was shown that this was completely inauthentic, and that, but videos like this are being amplified across different platforms, according to a Valery Pasa, president of the Watchdog MD, a Moldavian think tank. And he shared 100 examples of Facebook posts, mostly video, that he calls manipulated content about the war in Ukraine. And 28 of them have been taken down by Facebook, leaving 72. So why are the Russians so interested in spreading disinformation in Moldavia?
Well, because they have human material to work with. There is a big Russian-speaking community. There are a lot of people susceptible to this Nazi lie that all Ukrainians are Nazis. Yeah, they're spreading this, and they have been spreading this for quite a while, rather successfully. This is moment of truth right now. Who is real Nazi here? Who conducts a Hitler-style war? Who conducts genocide? Who kills civilians? Who destroyed truth, freedom, everything in his own country? And who stand up for, for our freedom? It's us, it's Ukrainians, and we all stand up for it. This nation is extremely united right now. We have our ethnic Jewish president, of whom we are extremely proud. I think 73% of Ukrainians elected him. We have Russians, Armenians, who else? Maybe other ethnicities in our government, probably. We all stand together, Russian-speaking, Ukrainian-speaking, internationalists, nationalists, gay, straight, old, young, all of a sudden, this nation that always quarreled about something is united. And it's amazing to see this nation like that. Unfortunately, it's not the picture of Ukraine that Russia wants the world to see, and many people choose to be fooled by the Russian propaganda. That's true.
And of course, it's not just Russia that's the recipient of their own disinformation, and it's not just Moldavia. It's quite prevalent here in the United States as well. And of course, there are those who have been following this and amplifying it, and including what I believe is our most popular news show, that of Tucker Carlson on Fox News, who said someone needs to explain why there are dangerous biological weapons in Ukraine and funded by the United States, which of course is nonsense. If you had the opportunity to talk to Fox News and others who are parroting Russian talking points, what would you say to them?
Oh, I think 3 weeks ago, I was on this podcast called Midas's Touch. And I was asked this question, and I said, I would ask Tucker Carlson, what's wrong with your soul? Why is your soul so dead? And if you are asking the question, who should we support, Russia? If you don't support Russia, why do we support Ukraine? If you ask this question, then are you really American? Because Ukraine is standing for freedom, and freedom is what America stands for, right? To this
On
morning,
our better days.
I saw an amazing, sorry, just one more thing. I saw an amazing interview, Sean Hannity and Sean Penn, two Seans on Fox News. And I was amazed to see that these people from two different worlds were united by one idea. America should support Ukraine. America should arm Ukraine. America should aim at Ukraine's victory and not at some another deal with this bloodthirsty monster in Moscow. So that was the moment when I realized that Tucker Carlson is not the whole Fox News.
Unfortunately, though, he is popular, so we have that to contend with. This may be a better question for Eugene, but I'm going to ask you this. Do you know how the Russians have organized their disinformation campaign? Oh, I think Eugene, I think you just were given the honor of answering that question, if you can.
It's actually hard for me to just to say about the structure and all of the organizations of the campaigns, because they have been so major over the last decades, I would even say, and they have been active around the world, not just Ukraine or Russia or anywhere else. But probably what we can talk about are now like the narratives and target audiences, and that they are trying to promote, like Alexander said, that inside Russia, they're trying to, their aim is to show why they're conducting this war against Ukraine, promoting these narratives about Nazis. Inside Ukraine, they also have, like there's a lot of misinformation, lots of hacking on social media. Like recently, there were cases that the social media accounts of Ukrainian military have been hacked with videos posted like calling to give up and things like that, or some of the Ukrainian TV channels have been hacked and they have been planted like the same messages that Ukraine should give up and things like that. And those campaigns are targeted at trying to discredit, for example, the media that is posting that kind of news and things like that. So people don't trust the media anymore that are trying to inform them. And yeah, there is also lots of campaigns against in outside of Ukraine and Russia, like in the United States and Europe, trying to discredit Ukrainians, that trying to promote stories to make sure that people stop supporting Ukraine, because now the whole world is united against Russia, and everyone is trying to help Ukraine in any way they can, and it really hurts Russia, both like economically, militarily, and in all other aspects. And so they're trying to weaken this support by, planting these stories like you showed. You talked about some supposedly drunken Ukrainian in Moldova or in other countries that, I don't know, Ukrainian refugees are misconducting somehow and things like that. This is really powerful force that they have been using all across the world to try probably like sow some dissent and chaos, and they're trying to actually have people question whether they should support Ukraine with this really weird stories that they're trying to plant. And we have to be really actually vigilant about all these kind of stories and try to ask ourselves the questions why these stories are being promoted. What is the end goal? And choose how to react to them or choose not to react to them, and understand that probably the information is pretty manipulative.
And do you have any assessment as to how successful they're being? Now, Alexander, you just said that within Russia, they're being quite successful in influencing their own people. But elsewhere, do you think that their talking points have found a home?
Well, there are certain countries in Europe where they are definitely successful. I read responses to my tweets from Serbia or from Syria, and it's mostly, or India. In India, they're extremely successful. They, interestingly enough, they spread videos from the first Chechen war, where Russia inflicted atrocities on Chechens, and present them as atrocities by Ukrainian army and Ukrainian civilians. And people in India, understandably, very far from this context, very often buy it. So they are diabolical in many ways. But, with regard to the West, I wrote a book about it called Ukraine versus Darkness, Undiplomatic Thoughts. And one of the...
Which, by the way, is available on Amazon. I checked it out.
Yeah. One of the ideas of this book is that these successes of Putin's information campaign in the last 2 decades are not as much about Russia's strengths, but about the West's weakness, because Europe is losing the faith in the European idea. America all of a sudden starts thinking like Tucker Carlson that freedom is not our business. We are in a business of something else, but not freedom of others shouldn't be our worry at all. And there is this emptiness that comes into the souls of many, many people in the West, and Putin is very successful in filling it with all kinds of misinformation, disinformation. For instance, what he's very successful, was successful for a while and very successful lately, is presenting this whole war as Putin's reaction to NATO enlargement. NATO went too far. I disagree with what Putin does, but understand why he does it. This is something I heard over and over again in Austria, working as ambassador. And the mistake is that you should just listen to what Putin tells Russians, and not what Putin tells you guys, because the messages that he projects to the West are usually 100% lies. What he projects to Russians is only 50% lies. So, for instance, in the beginning of this war, he very clearly explained what this war is about. It's about bringing Ukraine back to Russia. It's about overcoming the historic mistake of splitting three brotherly peoples. So, and in plain terms, it's about creating his new empire, now Soviet empire. So yeah, all these, false narratives, they are more or less successfully, sending to the West, and many people buy it. Although, quite frankly, judging by these mass demonstrations, mass demos for freedom and against the war in Ukraine, not very successfully lately.
Did you see this war coming?
Nobody believed in this war, because this war is the stupidest thing, because everybody, it's unwinnable for Putin. The only way for him to win this war is to kill all Ukrainians. Ukrainians don't want him. Ukrainians don't want Putin's Russia here. And therefore, I didn't buy it. Zelensky didn't buy it, I think. Just plus we had lots of illusions about Russia. For instance, I myself thought that the fact that we have so many relatives on the other side, that we very often speak the same language, have the same heritage, would play a role here. No, I just saw today the video of people in Kursk Oblast, Kursk region, sending off soldiers to this war enthusiastically, with flowers, with music, with smiles on their faces. Coincidentally, Kursk Oblast is right on the border with Ukraine. People speak there a mix of Russian and Ukrainian. My mother-in-law was born there. She comes from half of relatives of my wife come from that part of Russia. So I thought, before this war, I would have never thought that Russia is this fascist, that Russia is this heartless, soulless, that Russia has become this collective scoundrel, who doesn't care about people being killed barbarically across the border, 50 kilometers from there.
Well, there's a story of our President Biden at one point, when I think he was vice president, meeting with Putin, looked into his eyes and he says, "When I look in your eyes, I don't see a soul." And Putin was reputed to have smiled and said, "Well, we understand one another." So unfortunately, that's true.
But again, coming to the whether I believed it or not, this war makes no sense. It's senseless destruction of Ukraine's present and of Russia's future. It just maybe even they are playing now with the idea of nuclear holocaust. I don't know how far, how much crazier you can get. And nobody thought that. Well, most people didn't think that Russians can be this crazy.
And I don't think most people thought that their military was as weak as it has been, which is not to in any sense demean the courage and skill of the Ukrainian military, which has been amazing.
Yeah, actually, on the evening before the war started, a friend of mine in the government called me and said, tomorrow morning they are attacking us. And I'm like, what, again? They were supposed to attack us on 16th, then on 18th, on 20th. He says, no, this time really. And what happens next, I asked, and he says, well, they will it will take them 72 hours to take Kyiv. No questions asked. All military experts agree about that. So I didn't buy it, quite frankly, because I had a conversation before that with a veteran of the 2014-2015 campaign in Donbass, Ukrainian, who said, let them come. In this war, this side wins who are ready to die. And we are ready to die. We know what we die for. They don't know what they die for. And plus, of course, their army consists mostly of people from lower walks of life, from depressed regions, who take to this war without due preparation, without due education, and no motivation whatsoever. So it reflects, and we see that in the soldiers. They are surprisingly, they were in the beginning surprisingly, reluctant to fight. But then, when they realized that the civilians here are not welcoming them as they expected, they started taking it out on civilians, and we all have seen all these, horrible pictures, which I'm afraid are just the beginning.
Why are people calling Putin bunker dwarf?
You heard that?
Yes, I heard that. I did do my research, So.
Okay. Well, because he's a cowardly dictator who does what dictators do in the end of their career. He's fearing everybody. He's fearing everything. So he's sitting in his bunker and meeting only people who submit what's it called, stool sample to confirm that they don't have COVID. Allegedly, stool sample is the surest way to prove that you don't have COVID. So that's why some people sit very far from him, because they fail to submit the stool sample at the right time. And for instance, Bolsonaro, I think, was very quick in doing that. So he embraced Putin and was so close to him and so happy about it.
Eugene, thank you for joining us today. Where are you speaking from?
I'm in Poltava. This is actually my hometown. I have been able to get here after a month spending in not far from Pereyaslav, so it was closer to Kiev. Now I am together with my family, my wife and my mother-in-law, who we were able to evacuate from Kharkiv because they were hiding there from the bombings and everything like that. And so my hometown is in between Kiev and Kharkiv, and it has been relatively quiet here. There were a couple bombardments of some infrastructural objects here, but other than that, like the civilians, and fortunately there were no casualties. So we're now here. And so I feel a little bit like a kind of like a displaced person, because I had to flee Kiev, but it's actually much easier for me since I'm in my hometown. There are relatives and friends, and we have been able to find ourselves a separate house. So we're doing okay.
And how is your colleague Nicole, who joined us once before, and how is your family?
Yeah, Nicole is now in Ivano-Frankivsk, a city in West Ukraine. She's now actually staying with our team from MACPA, because right before the war, we moved a part of our team there and rented an office space and a couple of hotel rooms to support the company's key operations. And so now she joined that team in that city, and she's also doing okay.
And your family?
Yeah, my family are all here actually in my hometown. So we are now reunited. So yeah, been supporting each other. So I would say things are a little bit better for us since we're all together, and it really helps like to be together with your loved ones in these times.
How is McPaw doing? Is the company continuing to function?
Yes, we are continuing to function. We have resumed hiring, and we had a call, and so that each employee has a choice whether to volunteer and help in any way they can, like with humanitarian efforts and all other things, or to actually work at their position at the company, pay taxes and help company also make money to reinvest them into the McPaw fund that has also been providing the humanitarian aid to Ukrainians. We have recently launched an app called Spybuster that detects applications and website connections with connections to Russia and Belarus. So you can actually identify those if you have any connections going to Russia or Belarus from your computer. You can block them, and this is important because the Russian security services can have access to data stored on servers in Russia. They don't need a court order or anything, and so we are helping to be a little bit more secure. We're also now working on a browser extension that will be able to flag websites that have been posting some actual disinformation, and we're now working with one of an expert, the NGOs that has been doing this from 2014. So this will be a collaborative effort of us. We will provide the technical implementation, and the NGO will provide actually their experts and analysis that they have been doing over the years to actually identify the websites that spread misinformation in the past and keep spreading it now. So users in the internet are aware of that there is a risk that the information on the website that they're visiting might be manipulative at the least.
Could you provide us, in particular me, with information about any tools that we could be using to support, such as the ones that you just described that you're developing or may have developed? Please let us know, and we'll disseminate that information to everybody who registered for this session.
Okay. I'll make sure to send you maybe a list in an email. So,
yes, it'll be fine.
Okay.
It'll be
Okay.
fine.
And I dropped a link to that in the chat, Chuck.
What's that?
I dropped a link to that program that Eugene was just referencing in the chat.
Thank you, Lori. And are you creating, or are you aware of people within Ukraine creating messaging in English that we should be amplifying?
Well, at first, I would probably visit the website launched by Ukrainian Minister of Foreign Affairs. It's war.ukraine.ua, I believe. And so this is the effort by the Ukrainian ministry and the volunteers to spread the truthful information about what is going on in Ukraine. And it's the truthful information that has been checked and that you can use and amplify these messages as well. So I think that would be the number one resource for those. Also, we
follow me on Twitter.
Yes. Or follow Alexander on Twitter. I actually did follow Alexander myself when the war started.
You're going to see a huge bump in activity, Alexander, after this meeting.
Thank you.
And of course, DemCast, which was founded to fight disinformation. I don't think we ever thought, or Nick and Lori and Jamie ever thought, the founders, that it was going to be misinformation in Ukraine, but such as it is. And Nick, can you tell us a little bit about the digital front, what it is, why you're doing it, why we are doing it, and how it is functioning?
You bet. Thanks for the question. We definitely did not have this in our program plan for 2022, but it was obvious when Putin went into Ukraine that given the infrastructure that we have, we knew that we could help, and we had to. So right after the invasion, we sort of came up with a design for how people could jump in and use their own social media accounts to help amplify the truth and make sure that part of the goal is to debunk, Putin's lies, but I'd say more than that, it's really about flooding the zone with the truth, to inoculate people against Putin's lies, so that they will have such a tremendous amount of truth in front of them, repetitively, that that when they come across Kremlin talking points, it'll be obvious to them that it's BS. So I'm going to actually just go ahead and share my screen here really quick, and since I can do that, and just take you guys to our site. So I think a lot of the people, oh, no, that's my email. A lot of the people, oh, that's something else.
You even have more tabs open than I do. I'm impressed.
Oh my God. And I have so many windows open too. Nope, that's still my email. Hang on here. There we go. Okay. So this is our splash page on our website. It's demcast.com/disinfo. And this is where you can sign up. If you click here, it takes you to our project brief. The project brief describes this project in total, and it's what our narrative priorities are and what the actions are that people can take, and that we can take collectively. And so it's a really quick sign up form. Another questionnaire that's a Google form. We have a two-step process on purpose because we're trying to weed people out who are potentially bad actors, and also because it helps us figure out how you can help us, and how you can help the effort. So fill out that secondary form, and then we'll get you plugged in. And I know a lot of people on this call are already on this team, but for those who aren't, I just want to make sure everybody knows how to join. So after you join, if you're a Twitter person, you'll be able to join our one of our Twitter direct message groups, where people are just sharing. Oh, look, there's there's in these groups, but people can share content and talk and ask questions. So that's a great resource for people. And we also have a Facebook group. Sorry, to get this. No.
Well, since you have COVID at the moment, you're excused.
There. Excused. Thank you. Well, when you're on Zoom, it creates this little thing at the
Losing you a little bit there, Nick.
It's in the way of the tap. So sorry about that.
All right. Well, since Nick is a little frozen, we do have a Facebook
Yeah,
group.
great.
It's easy to find if you are on Facebook. And Heidi just dropped the link in there to the group. So if you're on Facebook, we would love for you to join. We will be streaming this broadcast there later. And it's been really important for us as Americans to find a way to support Ukraine from here. And, one of the things that we've seen is that we were a little bit used to fighting Russian disinformation as it applied to our politics. And we learned a few lessons there, but it's really stepped up our ability to foresee the disinformation. And one of the things that Putin is extremely comfortable with is projecting whatever atrocity that he wants to commit onto his enemies, whoever he sees as his enemies, and then following through himself. So he basically tells us ahead of time what he's going to do about what he is accusing his enemies of considering doing. And that the whole biological weapons is something that is extremely concerning to us, because we feel like that's going to, it heralds him potentially using chemical weapons and then claiming it, it came from Ukrainians. And so.
Do people bite?
Hmm?
Do people bite?
Do people bite? Some people bite, yes, unfortunately. In the US, about 36% have fallen into the disinformation abyss, unfortunately. So, it's something that we're focused on.
But I think that more than with the MAGA movement here in the US, we've been able to inoculate people against a lot of these lies from Putin, just because of the sheer volume of content that's been flowing online. I think social media has been key to keeping people inoculated from lies, and so that's why it's really important that we continue to have high volume of content and high volume of truth.
Nick, what kind of volumes has DemCast been able to create?
So our team, we've recruited about 2,500 people, and we use a family of hashtags. If you go into that project brief, it shows you the hashtags that we're using, and look at metrics hashtags which are unique to our campaign and social media impressions since the war started. On those hashtags, and that's just on the native content that our people are sharing. That doesn't include reshares of other people's content that obviously doesn't, where people aren't using our.
You picked up on the actual numbers. Tell us the numbers again.
2.3 billion social media impressions on our hashtags. So, and that's a reach of hundreds of millions of people. So you can, with dedicated activists who are using their social media accounts purposefully to spread truth, you can do a lot, and you can reach a lot of people. And we all know that it's one thing to see an ad or hear a politician talk. It's another thing to hear from somebody that you trust in your personal circle, your ex-college roommate or your uncle, or whoever it is that's in your social media feed. It adds a different layer of heft when the truth comes from those people. So that's really the purpose of our project. Of course, there's a lot of other great work happening in the digital space, but we're really tightly honed on trying to make sure that regular folks with their own personal social media accounts can help to contribute to the truth telling around this war. And we're just gonna keep it going as long as Putin's doing what he's doing, and until the Ukrainians win.
And let's emphasize the fact that 2.3 billion impressions, no bots were involved in that.
We don't do bots. We've got to use people, and part of that, you might see data where Putin bots or MAGA bots have a lot of traction on social media, but a lot of that is very empty traction. Our traction is with actual people who have actual social networks. So.
Well, let's move along, since over 100 comments and questions are in chat. I do a few things. Oh, what else can we do besides joining the digital front to help Ukraine? Where can we send our money?
Oh, there is a National Bank of Ukraine. It has a website in Ukrainian and in English. If you go to the English page of Ukrainian National Bank, you'll see two accounts, one to support Ukrainian army, the other to support civilian projects. So you choose, both is appreciated.
In the spirit of helping, and Noemi, I hope you managed to get this into chat. At 2:00, at the conclusion of this, there is a fundraising concert here in Ann Arbor, and you can join online and donate there. And I'm getting a negative, well, maybe it is, hopefully it's there. If not, you can go to Jewish Family Services in Ann Arbor and you'll find a link there. Questions. Noemi, can you, or Lori, can you pick some out of the folks in the Q&A section and in chat?
So I have a question for both of you, Alexander and Eugene. How do you predict this is going to end? What's going to happen?
Well, I said that this war is unwinnable for Putin. Sooner or later, he will have to withdraw. The question is whether he will turn the whole of Ukraine into Aleppo before he does that, or his margins up before he does that. I saw someone was asking a question about compromise, whatever, when this war would end. The thing is, even if Ukraine all of a sudden would surrender, decide miraculously, we know what expects us. And again, because Russia told us, Putin told us, well, not Putin, but one of his major outlets, RIA Novosti, published an article titled "What should we do with Ukraine?" And it describes that Ukrainian people have collective guilt towards Russia and should be collectively punished. And this punishment should include terror. It should include gulag. It should include concentration camps. So maybe he's using other words, but it's what is meant there. So even if, like many urge us to do, or like many urged Zelensky to do in the beginning of this, please just surrender, give up for the sake of saving the country, it won't save the country. It won't save the people. They are determined to erase us as a nation. To erase, they used one of the mantras that they were promoting in the last years was that Ukrainianness is mental illness, like Putin's chief advisor Vladislav Surkov said. It's illness, and they want to rid Ukraine of this illness, which means of Ukrainian language, of Ukrainian culture, with whatever means. So we need to fight. We need to win this war. We hope that finally the world realizes that Ukraine can win this war, because we won the battle for Kyiv. Now we need to win the battle for Donbass. But in order for that to happen, we need heavy weapons. We need howitzers. We need tanks. We need, ideally, of course, fighter jets.
Other questions?
Well, lots of comments and a lot of answers and questions, but I do have another question. So how do you identify supporters of Russians inside Ukraine, and what happens to them?
I don't know any supporters of Russia right now in Ukraine. It's amazing. People who were pro-Russian just a month ago, before the war started, all of a sudden are greeting each other, Slava Ukraini, Geroyam Slava. The greeting that was considered nationalistic and frowned upon, whatever. Now it's all gone. We are all one. And there are some people who, there is one member of parliament who supported Putin's invasion. Coincidentally, it's the dumbest, the stupidest member of parliament, and basically it's everybody recognizes that if his name is Ilya Kiva, nobody takes him seriously. He's a moron. Nobody knows how he became a politician, so he's in Moscow. There are a couple of members of pro-Russian faction who all of a sudden disappeared somewhere, closed down their Facebook accounts and not saying anything from the beginning of this war. Probably they are in Putin's corner, but even they don't go public and supporting Putin. So that's the benefit of being in this dire situation. People ring together, and this is what happened.
And if you take a look at where people are escaping from the war, and these are usually either Western parts of Ukraine or like further to the EU. No one is going to Russia, no one is going to Belarus to escape the war. And this, I think, speaks really loudly as to where people think like they should be and which places are safe, and like the reason why they're not going to Russia, because that would, I think, to them would be like a personal betrayal, like how they could flee to the country that invaded their own country. And yeah, suddenly when the war started, things for many Ukrainians just became black and white. You just know immediately who the enemy is, where the evil is, and what you need to do. Yeah, that's actually, as Alexander said, the nation is united as never before. And actually, when there are missiles coming at you, it's hard. Like even people who had some sentiments towards Russia, when they see those missiles, they understand immediately what's going on. And that's not something that they can like, yeah, okay, we need to, that's fine, we'll go to Russia when their lives are threatened. And the realization comes really fast, who's actually who's threatening your life and who's destroying your country.
Okay, one more question is more about practical day-to-day life. So the cities that are surrounded, how are people surviving in terms of food, things that they need? Where is the supply coming from, and is it gonna, end? So if you can tell us a little bit about that.
Well, there is one city in Ukraine that is surrounded. It's Mariupol. But the city has been destroyed already. It's completely unlivable, and it's a absolute crime, war crime, what Putin did to that wonderful city. Other than that, Kyiv was at no point fully surrounded. But of course, many supply routes are not there anymore, or people are not there anymore, suppliers are not there anymore. So the stores are not as full as they used to be, but there are also not so many people on the streets. It's rather empty in Kyiv. I don't know how about Poltava and Kyiv. It's sad, empty, but quiet. I didn't see any single case of marauder looting here. On the outskirts of Kyiv, there have been cases, but not in Kyiv downtown, where the richest and the most fashionable boutiques are. Nobody came to the idea to rob them out, and I'm kind of proud of it. And the other day, I was walking through the town, through the city, and saw this restaurant, and it had the sign 2 p.m. Every day, free food, making world a better place with our piroshki. I loved it.
Well, anything else before we start the wind up here, Noemi?
Yeah, there's a question: how divided is the population of Donbas region between people supporting Russia and native Ukrainians supporting independence?
Me?
Either one, yeah.
Well, of course, I saw this interview by Luhansk governor Sergei Haidai last week, and he said, I envy all towns in Ukraine where people are standing lines to join the army and to join the territorial forces. It's not the case in that oblast. But other than that, everywhere where the invaders come on the parts that have been under Ukraine's control, people take to the streets, people chant, my town is Ukraine. It's amazing. It has been how many, 45 days, so 40 days of Kherson's occupation. And every day people go to the street, including today, and they confront the invaders and they get shot at. Nevertheless, they come and they don't give the invaders the pleasure of, feeling at home and welcome. Well, it's more difficult in Donbass, and of course very difficult in the part of Donbass that has been under Russia's control for 8 years. Yeah, that's true.
Alexander, I have a question. My understanding is that Russia is trying to create a pathway to basically separate parts of Ukraine from each other so that they can have a pathway through. Is that part of this shift to Donbass?
Well, Putin set the goal rather high, the whole Ukraine. The change of the government, which means taking Kiev, separating different parts of Ukraine. One of the reasons why people are so angry and so not accepting of this invasion is that they saw what Russia did to the occupied part of Donbass in these 8 years, and nobody wants to live in this Russia-controlled Bandustan, just semi-something, I don't know, semi-state, unrecognized, uncivilized. So I don't know, Eugene, what do you say?
Well, probably, now the change of tactics is probably could be one of the aims is to create pathway from Donbass to the occupied Crimea, and they need to take Mariupol to get the control. And from what we heard, that they're trying to get any kind of a victory that they can present to the Russian people and show that that's why we went to this war. Like they couldn't take Kyiv and the whole Ukraine. Now they're trying to take the whole of Donbass, for example, and claim that would be their victory. So yeah, that's probably how we understand the situation right now, why there is a shift towards Donbass right now, and there's huge concentration of Russian forces in that area. So yeah, like God knows what will happen in that part of the country, but probably some major battles and with lots of more atrocities that are before us.
You should imagine it's World War II style combat that we are moving towards, with hundreds of tanks on the field, with absolute scorched earth artillery, salvos, or how do you say it, so it's kind of it will be a more difficult stage of the war. Yeah.
Well, Alexander, Eugene, thank you very much for being with us today, telling us the inspiring story of Ukrainian people. We admire your courage, and we will do what we can do. And I think for you viewers, you can see why we have to do what we can do. And DemCast will be providing the leadership on this, and we very much look forward to having you help us. And in 2 weeks, For those of you from Michigan or care about what we're doing here, we're going to have a guest. We're going to be speaking about the assault on reproductive rights. I just found out yesterday that someone from the Community Action Network here in Ann Arbor has gone to Ukraine to help distribute supplies. I hope to get him as our guest on a future show. Thank you, Nick and Lori, for co-hosting. Thank you, Noemi, for helping out as well. And good luck to all of you. We will be thinking about you.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, Chuck, and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. I'll just speak on behalf of hundreds and thousands of people who I've been interacting with from across the world, not just in the US, through our Digital Front project, who wake up every morning and think also about what they can do to help. And we'll see you out in the digital battlefield.
Absolutely.
Oh, and share the recording. You will be getting the recording of this. Share it. Many people, there are a lot of people out there who need to hear it. So
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you. so
Thank
much.
you.
bye now.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.